Hey, I'm Matt with 731woodworks.com. On this video, I'm going to show you how to build this awesome console table. A TV stand, media cabinet, you can call it what you want, but this thing is awesome. Hey, I love starting a new project, especially when I'm using high quality materials like this 3/4 inch sanded birch plywood from Lowe's, or Home Depot has it too. High quality materials or higher quality materials using stuff like this, it makes you feel like you're building something great. And for $50 a sheet, this is very inexpensive if you're gonna build your own. It seems like a lot at $50 for one sheet of plywood, but this one sheet of plywood is the only sheet we're gonna need, and other than that, we're gonna use 1x for the face frame, and then we're gonna use 2x on the top, and then a sheet of 1/4 inch plywood on the back. It's about $15 a sheet. The first thing I gotta do is make this more manageable. You could certainly cut this on the table saw if you have an outfeed table, but I don't, so I have to make this more manageable for me. And the first thing I gotta do is I'm gonna use this Craig Rip Cut saw guide. These are about $40. I'll drop a link in the description below if you were interested in one of these. This thing is great. It's an edge guide. First, it'll attach to any circular saw with these little clips. You just put it in there. The first time you use it, you calibrate it. You basically unloosen some screws and move it till it gets exactly right with this gauge here. Once that's done, you can lock it in place. You just hold the edge of it on the edge of the plywood and then move your saw down the plywood. Very easy to use, and it works really well. The only thing is, when you get to the very end, be sure to hold pressure on this guide so that it doesn't try to walk on you. It tends to do that on the end. What I'm going to do first, I know that I want my console table is going to be 6 foot long. This sheet of plywood is 8 foot long. I'm going to go ahead and rip off 2 foot off one end, and then I'm going to come back and rip 13-inch strips, 2 of them. One for the bottom shelf, which will be a solid piece, and then I'm going to go ahead and rip the whole 13-inch middle shelf, but I'm going to divide it up into 3 sections. Then I'm going to cut the dividers out for the console table itself. So let's get started with this project. I'm looking forward to building it. Looking forward to sharing it with you. I appreciate if you share this video on social media. It helps us out a lot. I know I want the top of my cabinet to be 6 foot long. This piece here is actually 6 foot, but we have to account for each side piece, which is 3/4 of an inch, and then any overhang on the top of the cabinet. I want a 1 inch overhang all the way around the cabinet. What I'm going to do is take 6 foot, and we're going to go back 1.5 inches. So that's 3/4 of an inch for each upright, each side piece. Take off that 3/4 of an inch on each side, which equals 1.5 inches. We're going to take 2 inches from there because we want 1 inch overhang on the very top. So the actual cabinet will be 68.5 inches long on the bottom shelf. And that way we'll have my side piece will go here, and then one on the other end on the outside edge of that. That'll give us a total length of 70 inches after the side pieces are attached. And once the side pieces are attached and the top is on, you'll have a 1 inch overhang on the top. So 68.5 inches is what we're going to cut the bottom shelf.
K5 Craig pocket hole jig to 3/4 of an inch. I'm drilling into 3/4 inch plywood, so that's why we set it at 3/4. And then I'm going to drill holes all the way down the length of the front of the bottom shelf as well as both ends. Then on each side of our shelves, we're going to drill the same pocket holes. I believe I'll put 3 in each one. Now it's time for assembly. This is just me assembling the bottom shelf to the side panels. You see that I let it stick by. I believe that was 4 inches to the ground. I don't exactly remember. I think it's 4 inches. And then I rip a 1x later to cover that up. But that gives me the height from the bottom shelf off of the floor. Now it's time to assemble those risers to the bottom shelf. Again, 3 pocket hole screws into the bottom. That's going to hold it solid, especially when we get those shelves in. And I was a little bit short on my 2 middle risers, so they're not quite wide enough. So I ripped a 1x material to meet the exact width of that bottom shelf so that everything would look uniform. And this is 3/4 of an inch material going on a 3/4 inch plywood, just glue and brad nails, and that helps just keep everything clean and the same width without having to buy an extra sheet of plywood just for that. All right, using 1.25 inch pocket hole screws here for these, and we're going to install the shelves on each end as well as in the middle. It's time to attach the trim on the bottom. This is a 1x6 that I've ripped down to size. Glue and brad nails are 45 degrees angled where it meets the front. We're going to take that front piece and it's going to be pocket hole screwed from underneath. Around the top, we're just using a 1x4. I didn't even rip this one down. It's a 1x4, so it's 3.5 inches wide. Glue and brad nails on the front, and then pocket hole screw from the risers into the middle. Now I'm using my table saw to rip down the 1/4 inch plywood we're going to use for the back. This will give this cabinet extreme stability. When you put this on there with glue and some brad nails, it makes it really rigid. That completed day one of this project, so it takes a little longer than I thought it was going to take. That's okay, we're going to finish it up the next day. The next day, what I did was, first off, I started off ripping up 2-inch strips that I'm going to use for my face frame.
Now it's time to trim this out the rest of the way. We got our 1x6 down here, which I ripped to 4.5 inches. This is just a 1x4, which is 3.5 inches wide from the factory. And then I've just taken a 1x6, as you saw, and ripped these down to 2 inches. So this is a 2-inch wide. If you don't have a table saw or a way to rip this stuff down, you could obviously use a 1x6 here or a 1x4, whichever, however thick you want it. And then you can buy 1x2s at your like Lowe's, Home Depot, stuff like that. You can buy a 1x2, and it would be 3/4 of an inch thick by 1.5 inches wide instead of 2 inches. So a little thinner profile there, if that's what you're going for. So what I'm going to do is, I've already got these cut to length, which is 22.5 inches long. And what I did at first was I cut these pieces at 22 9/16, which is a 1/16 longer than I needed. That way I could come back and just trim these just a little bit and make sure I got a good perfect fit, a good tight fit. So I'm gonna brad nail these on. These two will be centered over this, so halfway there. And I'm gonna brad nail, glue and brad nail that. And then on the edges, I'll bring you closer and let you see what I'm doing. So on this edge, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this piece be flush with the outside edge, and then I'm gonna take this piece on the ends like this. It's gonna be flush here and flush up here, and that'll give you, and when you're looking at it straight on, you won't see the edge of this board, because if you went like this and brought that out, then you would have it would make it look wider than the other pieces you've got in there. So this keeps everything looking uniform, and I think it'll look nice when we're done. And then this piece back here, I'm just gonna flush it up with the backside, and then we'll have this end here that'll be boxed in.
These are paint grade pocket hole plugs. I had to cut one end off because they're a little bit long. They're made for like if you're using 2.5-inch Craig screws. These are 1.25 inches. I just took some tree shears or shrub shears and trimmed the ends off really easy. Glue, just get them into place, take a little hammer and tap them to flush. They work really great. And then next we're gonna build my bottom trim. I just got a 1/4 inch roundover bit sticking by just a little bit so that it gives an edge detail. You'll see it in just a second. This works really great. I do this on a lot of my furniture.
All right, so I'm a day late and the board's short as usual. So I've got the top piece on, it's just a 1x. I've cut again to 2 inches, same thing as the bottom. The bottom, you saw me use the router to put a little detailed edge on that bottom. I want to do the same thing on the tabletop so that matches. If you were doing a barn door slider style cabinet, then you wouldn't need so much to put this trim on there. The reason I did was when I mount my doors, they're just gonna kind of be sticking out without any trim on there. When you put this trim on the top and the bottom, then that's gonna bring everything out to the same level as the doors. So my doors will be 3/4 of an inch, and of course these are 3/4 of an inch material, or 1x material. I was about that much too short having a board long enough to do the top and the bottom rail, or trim. That's okay, I've got other stuff I need to be doing anyway. So to give it a little more finished look, we're gonna use a Cove Molding. It's just a Cove Molding, that's what it is. So what I'm gonna do is set this inside here. I'm gonna cut it 45-degree angles here on each corner, but just brad nailed in, and that's gonna give it a nice finished look when we're done. That's what I'm doing now. We gotta cut the Cove Molding, and then I'll fit it into place and just tack it in there. Like I said, we're gonna put this cove molding on. I've got it cut out already. What I like to do is, to me, this, when you start cutting this cove molding, it's going the inside box like that. It's like you have to think backwards on the angles. Like this one, if you're not careful, you'll cut it wrong and you won't have a flat there. You'll have, if you cut it the other way, it'll kind of be dipped in. It's kind of hard to explain, but this is what you're looking for. It's going to be 45 on each end, 45 degrees. And what I do is I'll get this corner right, and then I'll come and mark this one just a little long, and then just start trimming it up little by little. It takes me a lot longer, but that way I make sure I get it the exact length I need. So I kind of sneak up on that cut and make sure that you get it in there. And then, as with everything else, glue and brad nails is all you're going to use to put them in. I just got some 5/8 inch brad nails. They're really short. It doesn't take much. The glue is actually, well, both are going to hold it, but the glue would actually hold it if you can. This end is done. Now we're going to just do some putty and sand it. And this is ready for paint. We're going to do the other end, and again, once I get that other board, put this top and bottom trim on, and then the frame is done. We're going to sand it, then we're going to paint it using Sherwin-Williams stain blocking primer, and then after that's dry, we'll do a biscuit white for the base. Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic Biscuit White. So what happened was, on that end, it was about an 1/8 inch off. I didn't check it like a big dummy. So now I gotta go back and redo it. So I'm just gonna re-tack it on and then pull those, and we'll putty and fill them. A pair of vice grips works great for this. All right, last thing before we prime it, I've got some tabletop clips. These are Rockler tabletop fasteners, or Z clips. I'll drop a link in the description of these. This is what you attach your tabletop with, so that it gives it allowances for expanding and contracting on your tabletop, since we are using 2x material. So what this does, if you've seen any of my other builds before, farmhouse tables, stuff like that, this has a hole in one side, and it's just solid on the other. The solid side is going to go into a hole that you cut, and then you'll put a screw from the bottom up into your tabletop. This is important, like I said, because it allows expansion and contraction of your boards. So what I want to do is, I've just got a 1/8 inch straight bit with an edge guide, and I know that I've already set it to this depth. I just lay the Z clip on there and get it set to the depth that I want, which is slightly, I like to set it slightly deeper than the Z clip actually is. That way, when it's on there, you can, when you put it in the slot, it'll give you a little bit of room to get a little pressure on there to cinch your tabletop down. So what I'm gonna do is just cut some slots across here and some across here on each end. Give me several places there, maybe 8 or 10 or 12 places to attach the tabletop with. I won't have anything on the back to attach, but I will have it here, here, and then on each end. So let's do that, and then we'll just take a light sanding and sand off anything that this roughs up, and then we're going to prime this dude and be ready to roll.
Finish off that top trim. It's just a 2-inch strip. I'll rip it on. I need 45 on each end.
So this probably doesn't even need this bracing that I'm putting in here, but I did want to go ahead and rip these down. It's just the thickness from here to here, and it's just going to set in there and just provide a little more bracing through that middle. I just didn't want it, there's nothing on the back, so I mean if you run a board on the back you probably wouldn't need these, but just to keep everything from, just to give it something good and level to sit on, good and solid when it's sitting on the floor, I thought this would be a good idea. So these are just pocket hold, that 2 going into this board, and then 2 going into the bottom shelf there. Time to build the doors for this console table. We're putting doors in the middle. Like I've said before, we're going to leave empty shelves on, or open shelves on each end. So what I've done is I've went ahead and ripped 2-inch 1x, which is 3/4 inch thick by 2 inches wide, true 2 inches wide boards. If you're picking up from the home store, they sell these 1x2s, which will be 1.5 inches wide. And if that's the case, all your other styles will be, which is what they call the vertical, the styles. Anything horizontal is gonna be your rail. So what I've done, I ordered some concealed hinges off of Amazon. I'll put a link in the description to these concealed hinges. This is a 10-pack. I only needed 4 for this one. They come with the hardware, which is great, but these are soft close. What it's gonna do is allow a 1/2 inch overlay. And I went ahead and ordered the Craig concealed hinge jig also. I think it's like 30 bucks. It comes with your drill bit and everything you need to put these style hinges in. It's a pretty good deal. I haven't used it yet, but I've used Craig stuff before, and I'm confident it's going to work like I need it to. On the styles, these will drill in like this, and then of course this will mount to your frame. But it's going to give me a 1/2 inch overlay. These hinges are a 1/2 inch overlay. So I know that I'm going to have a 1/2 inch overlay here, so I went ahead and marked a 1/2 inch on this frame and this frame, and went ahead and clamped these in place. To get my distance, and I know that I want about a little over a 1/16 inch gap here. So what I did was, I took my other 1x that I haven't ripped to 2 inches yet, and I cut it until I got the distance I wanted there. And I'm gonna rip these 2s down, and I'll need 2 here and 2 here. And then we'll build the frames of these doors. But I put a mark there, down there, and I left how much gap I want, which is just barely over a 1/16 inch. So when I put it there, and I can move it over here, make sure I'm a 1/2 inches here, put this in place, and everything still lines up, and I know I'm good. So that's how I did it. That way you don't have to do a bunch of math, a bunch of measuring, trying to figure things out. So I just took and measured from the inside of each of these styles that I've got clamped in place to halfway, which was 15 inches. And then I measured back, not quite a 1/16 on each side. Should, if everything is square and lines up right, I should have just over a 1/16 inch gap here, which is what I want. So I'm building a shaker style door. So once I rip these to 2s, these 2 inches down, I'm going to inset a sheet of 1/4 inch ply inside here. So what I'm going to do is rip a rabbet. I actually ordered a rabbet bit off Amazon, and they sent me a finger glue bit from a router. So I'm having to send it back, but I can do it on the table saw. I'm just going to rip a rabbet out of each side, I think. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but we'll figure it out. All right, so what I'm trying to do is build a shaker style door, and what I wound up doing was on the table saw, I tried to cut a rabbet out on each side, and I drilled my pocket hole too close to that one, so too close to the edge, and it busted it out. So this is a scrap. Anyway, I cut a 1/4 inch deep by a 1/2 inch wide rabbet out of each one of these. My plan was, because this is the rail and this is the style, was to pocket hold everything together like this. But when you do that, and I knew that it was going to do it anyway, but I tried it. But you got that rabbet that goes all the way up. So when your pocket holes go in, they're actually going to be exposed here, and they're not going to get enough surface to grip. So I had to scrap this idea. So this isn't going to work. I ordered that rabbet bit. If I had got the rabbet bit, I could have just pocket hold this frame together, just a square frame, and then taken the rabbet bit with the correct bearing to set the depth, and just run my router all the way around the inside, and I'd have been fine. So that's why I'm trying this, because I didn't get the correct bit in time. And then, so my next step was I cut a groove in there, and then just slide the panel in, the 1/4 inch panel in, like I've done my drawers before. So on a drawer, like this is the side of the drawer, you just slide that panel in. Well, I'm still going to wind up with the same thing at the top when these two pieces come together. It's still going to have those pocket holes that I have to contend with. was taking I have a 1/2 inch straight bit and an edge guide on my router, and you'll see in the video in just a minute how I've done this. So basically I rabbited it with the straight bit and an edge guide. It's not as clean as a rabbit bit would be, but it worked out nice. So I've set it to a 1/4 inch depth, so this is flush, and then 1/2 inch all the way around is what the panel is going to lay on. So I'm just going to glue this in. After I clean this up a little bit with sanding, and then I'm going to glue this in, and then we have a shaker style panel door. Not bad. So I've built that one. Let's build the next one.
Using that 1/4 inch straight bit with an edge guide, I had to be really careful. It worked a lot better than I thought it would, but I do need to get a rabbit bit for next time. This Craig concealed hinge jig worked like a charm. I highly recommend this thing. I'll drop a link in the description. Installing the doors, these concealed hinges that I bought have 2-way adjustments. They'll adjust in and out and up and down. 3-way actually, in, out, up, down, left, right, I don't know, BA select start. You can adjust them about any way you want to, but it took me a while to get everything adjusted just like I wanted. Then as promised, I went back and puttied all of my brad nail holes and any imperfections that I wanted to putty up. At this point, don't forget to drill your holes. I drilled a little bit from one side and then a little bit from the other. That way I didn't have any tear out. Then it's time for everybody's favorite, sanding. So I sanded this thing pretty good. 120 grits as low as I went, or as high as I went. I didn't want to go any higher than that. I think that's good enough. And then once we get this done, we're going to prime and paint.
Left top, do this one left bottom. Left bottom. That way we can keep up with everything. You saw I marked this this door with an L inside that pocket. I'm gonna take a piece of painter's tape and just put in there while I paint. And that's not gonna matter that doesn't get painted. Because when we pull that off, I'll know that this is the left door, that's the right door. We're gonna do that the same way. That way we can keep up with everything goes. And normally, I mean, you don't have to mark these, but I've already adjusted all these hinges to make everything level out and be flush, so I want to keep that going. I don't want to have to re-level everything, so that's what we're going to do with these. I'm going to put these away or set these to the side while we finish sanding, and then we'll paint everything.
I didn't mention it, but you'll see the pocket hole plugs there that I used. I went ahead and plugged those holes up on the door. And I highly recommend getting somebody to help you with this. Good gravy, that thing's good. Quick wipe down with a damp cloth. You get to remove any more dust that's there so that it doesn't stick in your primer. I'm using Sherwin-Williams Prep Right Pro Block primer on this project. Once the primer's on, I went with this Pro Classic Sherwin-Williams Biscuit White. I really like this paint. It's very popular stuff I build. So here I'm using 2x6s for my top, common construction pine. This is me jointing with a table saw. I have a video on that if you want to check that out. This makes the edges straight so everything is nice and flat whenever you're putting everything together. And then I used my DeWalt 735 and planed everything to the same thickness. Then of course more pocket holes, just pocket hole joinery for the tabletop, glue and pocket holes. Once I get everything screwed together, we take it over to the miter saw and I chop off the end to make everything nice and square. Then I took my 1/4 inch round over bit, I rounded over the bottom edge, just a round over, and then the top I did the same way as I did the bottom trim that we done earlier on the project, where it's sticking by just a little bit. And then of course we have to sand the top. I did have a couple of places that were a little bit mismatched, so I had to I had to sand those smooth. And once I got it sanded down to 120, I just took a piece of sandpaper, went around the edge, and we go for the Minwax pre-stain conditioner. I let that set for about 30 minutes before I put my stain on. I went with the Minwax Dark Walnut for my stain. I let my stain set overnight, and then I come back. The next day I put a coat of General Finishes Armor Seal. This is the second coat. I do a light sanding of 320 grit, and then I wipe it off with a damp cloth, let that dry, and then I just wipe this stuff on. It goes on easy. I really enjoy using this product. Again, General Finishes Armor Seal, I highly recommend it. Then we're attaching the tabletop with those Z fasteners that we showed earlier. These work really good. Then my wife and I attached the doors, and when I went to put the hardware on, the oil rub bronze door pull, I had not drilled a big enough hole for the screw to go through, so it actually tore out on the other side. And you'll see that in just a second, where I had to putty and fix that after everything was painted. But I did use the felt pads again on this project on the bottom to keep it from scuffing anybody's floors up. I really like those. They're very inexpensive. You can pick them up at Walmart. There's that General Finishes armor seal showing. It's a satin finish. I love how it looks. It gives the wood a deeper look, a deeper finish, and it's just a durable finish. It's easy to put on. You don't have brush strokes, anything like that. You just use a rag and wipe it on. Of course, that's that biscuit white. Everything's finished. This thing looks amazing. I was very proud of this project. It looks so good. Here it is, properly staged in my living room. It's not where it's going to stay. It's actually a customer's project, but I did stage it just to get these videos and pictures. For more pictures of this project, go check out the blog, 731woodworks.com. Just click on blog and you'll see it there. You'd do me a huge favor if you click that subscribe button, share this video, and you can watch any more videos here on the left or right. Just click those. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you so much.